This is a
Good
regular.
morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me? Good. Okay, so let's call the meeting to order. Rita, can you do a roll call?
Yes, I'll first open the,
Is it necessary to do a roll call?
yeah, we'll do one just a minute. This is a regular meeting being held by the Architectural Review Planning Board of the Town of Gulfstream on Thursday, May 28th, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. This Architectural Review and Planning Board meeting and public hearing will be conducted using communications media technology. The meeting can be accessed online via www.gotowebinars.com, including allowing for public comment. The roll call. Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty? Mr. Doherty?
Bob, can you hear us?
Vice Chairman Murphy?
Yep.
Mr. Roche?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Chairman Smith?
Here.
Mr. Doherty?
Here.
Okay. Also present are alternate member
Thank you.
Amanda Jones, Town Manager Gregory Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Edward Mazzaro, and myself.
Thank you, Rita. I think everyone had a chance to review the minutes of our meeting from a month ago. Are there anybody have any suggestions for additions, withdrawals, corrections, et cetera? If not, could I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the ARPB meeting of March 26th.
I'll second.
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Roche,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Okay, it's moved and seconded.
Roll call.
I didn't.
I'll call it again.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Roush,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Smith,
Yes. Okay, thank you. And also, thank you, everybody that was there responsible for pulling this together. I know it's pretty difficult. I'm hoping that maybe by next month, we'll be able to meet at least partially in person. Rita or Greg, do we have any thoughts on that with what's happening at the state of Florida level?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It looks to me like after all of our conference calls over the last 65 to 70 days that towns and cities are randomly, not all of them, but in some form are beginning to open their town halls up again, beginning in the first week of June. Now that may mean just their lobbies, but in various forms. Most of the towns and cities are beginning to bring their employees back. All of ours are back. We are still closed to the public, but we are having meetings, as everybody knows, with people by appointment outdoors. And we've been very, very busy with applications, and it's been successful so far. But we, like you guys, are hoping to be able to maybe begin to have live meetings again. If not the commission meeting on June 12th, but certainly by the ARPB meeting at the end of the week.
Thank you, Greg. In our agenda for there are the future meeting dates. I hope everyone will make note of them. And if there's some case that you're not going to be at any of those meetings, would you please let Rita or the town hall know? I guess we can begin our public hearing now. Rita, I don't know how do you ask people who are going to participate to go under oath?
Uh,
We ask one at a time, or?
First, we need a declaration of ex parte communication.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, good catch. Has anybody had any ex parte communication that they need to divulge?
No.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rita. Now we do need to administer the oath to anyone who will be able to speak, if it's possible to do that.
Right. Anyone that's going to present, let's have you stand and give your name.
Mark. Keith Williams.
Any others?
Richard Johns.
Please raise your right hand.
Dave Bodker.
Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Now, is there anyone else that plans to speak during this portion of the meeting?
This is Cynthia Spray. I plan to speak, but during our presentation, which is number 4 on the agenda.
Anybody that wants to speak with regard to this item for 3377 North Ocean? Yes, that's it.
So again, that's Mark Marsh, Keith Williams, Dave Boddicker, and I missed the third one, Richard.
That's Richard Johns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mark, or someone from your team can proceed.
Yeah, good morning, all. Nice to see you again, virtually anyway. The record, Mark Marsh, Bruce Marsh Architects, here representing Mrs. Bess Weatherman, 3377 North Ocean Boulevard. With me today is Keith Williams, who will actually be making the presentation. We're here before you today to go over primarily the landscape and hardscape elements that have changed since our previous approval last year. And this is quite a normal resubmission because things do change as the project proceeds. I think what we'll do is I'll just give you the points. We have a new entry gate, some privacy gates, a new ramp that was added by the client, and some of the modifications to privacy walls and retaining walls, and a relocated beach access to the ocean. With that, I would ask Keith to just take you through the project and really highlight those elements I just mentioned. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. For the record, Keith Williams with Williams Design. As Mark mentioned, we've made some adjustments and modifications to the overall site plan, hardscape, and planting, based on the house and its development. And I'll just walk you through some of the changes. I would say that the overall design intent is pretty much the same as we presented last year and had approved by the board. Starting with the south property line, we've had some communications with the neighbors to the south, and we've increased our landscaping heights and buffering to about 16 feet overall in height. And I will point out that the grade difference from what was existing originally is anywhere from 4 to 5 feet. So we're 4 to 5 feet higher on our side of the property than the original house was, because we had to raise the house up, because of the requirements. So with about 16 feet of landscaping, we're probably exceeding what was there by at least 4 feet in height. The wall that runs along the southwest, we've increased to an 8-foot high max to give it as protection as possible. And that wall runs out up to the CCO. Obviously, I'm sure most of you know, for retaining purposes, we had the wall running out further than what was allowed, which was a miscalculation on our end. We've since removed that wall and are now conforming with the code. So one of the big elements that's changed also on the west garden is what we're calling a switchback. Originally, we had mostly grass throughout the area, but kind of as time developed, we needed a walk someone who couldn't really walk on grass, or maybe is elderly and needed a wheelchair, or guests that have luggage. So there's quite a transition, and this switchback, which I'll show you a 3D image of, becomes quite architectural in the garden. And I think is more aesthetically pleasing than it is functional, but it is very good. But it basically consists of a limestone walkway that slowly ramps up and turns around this planter wall that's supported by coarse steel. Again, this will make more sense when I show you the image, but it continues and leads you up to the main house. So, like I said, if you had a wheelchair or luggage, you could easily get into the house without having to climb steps. But if you are capable of climbing steps and you don't feel like walking out, there's a series of grass steps that start and continue here up into this lawn area. The pool design is essentially the same. We've added an area off the loggia here, so you can step right up the loggia to the shallow water area. There's a spa in the middle, steps flanking either side of the spa, and then a long linear lap pool with an overflow that drops down to a lower elevation at the west end. We'll show you the gate design for the entry gates and the garden gates, the garden gate is here, obviously driveway gate is here. We have 5 gate locations, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The walkway design is essentially the same as we presented, with the exception of the fountain. We've kind of modified the fountain to run right up into the walkway here. There's some stones that appear to be floating in the water, so if you were entering the home, you could access this open loggia here from this main walkway. We extended the walkway slightly to the east because we have an outdoor grill in this corner here, and then this walkway takes you through a gate. We've moved the beach access the north of the property, and I think that pretty much covers it as far as changes go. So let me just go through some of the images here. Yeah, it's just slow. It's a little slow, so bear with us here. Yeah. For some reason I can't. This is I'll start with this image. So this is an image standing in the east lawn in the center of the property, looking south. We've had discussions with the neighbors about screening. We're proposing at the southeast corner, between the garden and the southeast corner of this of the building, a large sea grape tree about 20 feet tall, understory sea grapes at about 16 feet high, and then naturally kind of sloping down to 10 to 8, and then engaging into the existing dune vegetation, which is anywhere from 4 to 5 feet. And then this is a picture.
Are they
taken
there
from-
now? Are those?
These are not here now, no. This
Okay.
from here to here, is all new. And this is existing, but we fill in, to marry the new. This is a view from upstairs, second floor, looking out. The goal here is to, screen the neighbor's pool and vice versa. This is a rendering of the gate that leads you into the walkway, the main walk up into through the gardens. And, you transition from the garage or the motor court area up to the main house. And this is a solid wood door. We're using 410 steel as our fencing, planted on both sides. And then this will actually have a pivot and then a steel handle, actually a levered handle hidden behind here. This is the proposed driveway gate, again wood, matching the garden gates. It will slide the straight access. And the garden gate.
Sorry, pardon me, can you back up a minute? That'll be the gate on A1A?
Yes, correct. This is the gate on A1A. This is the vehicular gate. And then these are the garden gates, which again pick up the same material, the color, the style, which again is wood with a little 1/4-inch joints, giving you these linear panel looks, and then these simple, a little more contemporary, modern bronze hardware. This is the view of, you're in the west garden looking east back to the main house, and this is what we're calling Switchback. You can see how this walkway slowly ramps up and then turns the corner here and ramps up more. This is a limestone wall with succulents and sea lavenders, and then 410 steel engages this wall with a little bit of water that falls into the lower basin. So if you weren't walking up this ramp, you would walk up a series of these lawn steps, again supported by 410 steel. And then the pool's in the background there. But I'll show you the pool. This is kind of looking in the west to the north almost, or northeast. You can see how the pool is overflowing in a little basin, and again, a series of steel risers up to the final grade. It's pretty much level throughout this whole garden. And then we have a few palms that are juxtaposed throughout the garden, giving us a little bit of shadow, shade, and just kind of creating a sense of depth. And then our hedges on the south here will end up being pleached or bollard, and there'll be Neronia trees at a 16-foot high. And then some pictures of the existing site. This image here is pretty what was there, and very similar to what our new image, what we're proposing, I should say, landscape-wise. If I can zoom in on it. And then this is existing dune vegetation here. I think that's pretty much it. Might want to talk about the bottom left-hand.
Yeah, they haven't
Bottom
asked
left.
questions yet.
What the bottom left. So this is basically, if I were standing in the southeast corner of the property, looking back at the old house and the existing edge. I'm not sure how I can blow these pictures up. It would be a little helpful. And then this is standing in the east lawn looking south. This is east lawn further north looking south. And of course, this is the dune here. So much more. Yeah, just to remind you, we're about 4 feet higher. In some areas, we're almost 5 feet higher in grade, which will increase our screening heights. That really concludes my presentation.
You're going to have on both. Okay. Does anybody on the ARPB have a question or comments?
Yeah, I do. Have the neighbors weighed in on this, and where do they stand?
Mr. Smith, this is Renee. Mr. Picard is on and would like to ask a question. And to do that, I'm going to have to make him a panelist, and then Ms. Rita's going to have to swear him in.
Okay.
So give me just a second.
Oh, shoot. Right there.
They used a lot. Yeah. Sure. If we need to show some. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Picard, I sent you a request to share your webcam, and then you also need to turn your microphone on.
Can you hear me now, Renee?
Yes, is this Mr. Picard?
Yes, hi, this is Mark Picard.
Okay, first of all, Miss Rita has to swear you in.
Okay.
Miss Rita?
Mr. Picard, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear? Tell the truth.
I only heard, do I solemnly swear, Rita?
All right.
That's it.
Oh, I do. I solemnly swear.
Okay, tell the truth. All right. That voice sounds like Mr. Picard, who I have spoken to before.
Thank you, Rita. Do I have the floor?
Yes.
Certainly. Go ahead, Mr. Picard. You're the neighbor, just so everyone knows, you're the neighbor to the south of the property, correct?
That's correct. And
Okay.
I just wanted to start off by thanking Rita for her professionalism, her responsiveness over the last few months. She's a fountain of knowledge, and she's a real gem to have in the town, and we really appreciate all that she's done. My team and I have been on the phone with her quite a bit, and she's helped us see things through and make this a much easier process. We appreciate all the efforts that Bess and her team have done on the screening. Screening between our homes still clearly remains an issue for us, possibly. It remains to be seen. Clearly, there are areas where we would prefer higher screenings in the areas where there are 8 and 10 footers. But that being said, we appreciate the efforts that have been done so far. And we request that the heights don't come down from the proposed heights that they're installed at. We don't want to see that ever happening. In fact, we prefer to see them flourish a little bit and grow. However, we have no other comments other than we wish her a lot of luck, and we hope she plants sooner than later, at least along the border, so that we could enjoy our screening. That you can't see me on the camera, but there's no screening now. Because there's nothing there. So we would just appreciate an early planting if possible. And that's it. Rita's resolved all of our other issues.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Picard. You're fully aware of the new heights that they've just explained to us in the most recent plan, that I think the heights are going to be 16 feet along the south border and north border, except where they feather down towards the ocean. Is that acceptable to you now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously higher would have been better and more consistent with what was there, but we're fine with the 16 footers phasing down as long as our privacy is protected. You know, we have a pool right there, way east of Bess's house, but hopefully we get screened, and you know, there's a lot of mass to that house, as you can appreciate, and it's very far east of our house. It's probably, I'm guessing, 25, 30 feet east. So there's quite a bit of exposure. So it remains to be seen. I have confidence in Bess and her team that she's going to live up to her stated objective of making it as lush and thick and high and bountiful as it was previously. So we're keeping the confidence in her and her team to restore it the way it was, so that we have the privacy, which is all we're asking for. Is that there is none now.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from any members of the board?
Mr. Picard, is there any way that you can
Any
turn
comments from staff?
Mr. Smith?
Okay.
Mr.
We need a
Smith.
motion then. Are we ready? Oh,
Mr. Smith? Is there any way we can get Mr. Picard to turn on his webcam? Because we have to be able to see him. We don't need to? Okay, never mind. Never
say that
mind.
again, please.
Just nix it, never mind.
Yep.
I can try to do it right now. Here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
You could go ahead with your motions.
Can you hit that little green motion picture button? Okay, I think we're ready. Malcolm, would you mind reading the motion for us?
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a level 2 architectural site plan based on a finding that the improvements to hardscape structures, brackets, gates, walls, trellises, walkways, etc., close brackets, and landscape improvements meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1, any minor modifications in the approved landscaping should be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications should be brought back to the ARP for review and approval prior to commencement of landscaping.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments? If not, Rita, would you please?
Yes. Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
Call.
Vice Chairman Murphy. Vice Chairman
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Mr. Roach. Mr. Roach.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes. Okay, thank you. It is passed unanimously. Okay, let's move to the second item on our agenda. It will be the new residence at 2943 Polo. Rita, would you ask anyone who is going to speak to be sworn in?
Yes, anyone as the presenting persons, please give us your name now.
Richard Jones.
Anyone else?
Dave Bodker.
All right. Would you raise your right hands? You solemnly swear that you shall tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Is there anyone there else that would be planning to speak on this matter? Apparently not. That's it.
Thank you, Rita. Richard, if you're going to speak first, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca, is the PowerPoint going to be up? Rebecca?
There you go.
I think she's getting it ready. There you go.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
share your webcam, Mr. Jones? There you go.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Good morning. Richard Jones with Richard Jones Architecture here in Delray Beach. I'm joined virtually by Dave Botker, the landscape architect. And it's my pleasure to present to you 2943 Polo Drive for Seaside Builders, Mr. Tom Ladowney, who's built a dozen or so homes in Gulfstream in the last 6 or so years. If we go to the next slide. Excuse me, Rebecca, are you going to be working the slides or do I work them?
You have control of the screen, Mr. Jones, so you can do it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. Okay. This is our site location at 2943. As you can see, it's one lot in from the corner of Gulfview Drive. It's a unique site and it has a large rear yard with a drop off and significant vegetation to the east. The next slide is the survey. It's an existing one-story home with a pool. I believe it has a circular drive. These are some of the photos of the property. There's also a covered carport awning there, circular drive, and street views facing north and facing south. These are the adjacent properties to the north and to the south and across the street. And this is our site plan. And what is being proposed is a one-story home of 5,240 square feet total gross with a two-car garage. Access is provided through a circular driveway. It features a swimming pool at the rear of the property with a detached guest cottage and also an entry courtyard. And I know Dave Bodker will be presenting the landscape later, but from this plan, you can see the significant vegetation that is existing to remain, as well as new plantings that Dave is proposing. The next slide just shows our data table where we conform with the LDRs. We have increased setbacks on both the front and the rear of the property. We are under the maximum height and we are over the landscape area required by 5%. The next plan here is the floor plan that shows the house lays out. Great room in the center with guest bedrooms on the north wing and master bedroom on the south wing. It does have a courtyard feel with a U shape, detached guest cottage, self-sufficient with its own bathroom and closet, and it's connected via an open air arbor. There's also an outdoor summer kitchen. And again, in the front, there is a entry courtyard with low masonry walls and also wing walls on the corners of the property, which you can see in the elevation currently. Proposed Gulfstream Bermuda style to complement other houses on the street. The details include louvered shutters, decorative finials, gable ends facing the street, the entry courtyard with low masonry walls, varied window types, some elliptical windows, and also some terraced garden walls on the sides with arbor detailing above the gates and decorative chimneys at the upper roof. These are the side elevations, and you'll see in the landscape architect's renderings of the sides, these elevations will not be visible from the properties. And then we have our rendering with white stucco, gable end details, the decorative finials that you see at the gable ends with the gable end louvers, and the garden walls on each side along with the arbors above, and the flat tile roof with the decorative chimneys. And again, this view, artistic rendering, the front of the house will be more substantially covered, as well as the rear, which will be evident in Dave Botker's presentation. So I thank you very much, and I will turn it over to Dave.
Oh, sorry.
I can answer the question right now if you'd like, or if you'd like to wait till after. Sure. Ms. Murphy?
Richard, Richard, you mentioned about the roof tile color. What color did you say again, please?
That would be a gray tile roof.
Great, thanks. Sorry, I thought I heard black. Sorry.
No worries. Yes, Mr. Roach?
Yeah, Richard, what is the height of the roof on the guest cottage? I couldn't see that on my plans. I see that it shows I think the height of the ceiling at about 10 feet or 10 feet 4. But what is the total height of the roof?
I am going to say, based on the plans that I'm viewing here, that the top of ridge of the guest cottage is about 16.5 feet.
Okay, but it will be under 18, which is the limit.
That's correct. And the eave height is 10'6".
10.6, okay.
Yes.
A little bit, it's hard to read. It's a touch small, but okay, got it.
And can I ask you a question? And what did you say that the shutter color
yes.
was?
The shutter colors are Benjamin Moore, historic color 115 Georgian green.
Georgian green, okay.
Yes.
All right, Richard, are the roof tiles a color that we have approved previously? Is anybody, Greg Dunham or Trey, are they the identical the tiles we previously approved in gray? Not for this home, but for other homes?
Yes, I believe we've used this color before on at least 2 other seaside homes in Gulfstream.
And Mr. Smith, this is Greg, and that's my understanding also.
Well, I love that it's a 1-story home. I think it looks fantastic from what I'm looking at.
Yeah, normally we get to see them in person, and I just want to make sure that somebody has seen them. Same way with the Georgian green
And the Benjamin Moore Historic Color
Say that
Palette.
again, Bob.
Oh, can you hear me? There seems to be a delay on my end. I don't know. But I was just commenting that I liked the fact that they went with a one-story home.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Look what that is, without seeing it, but green is acceptable. But we like keeping towards the dark end.
I wasn't sure I can completely hear that, but I think it is a color that we want staff to see a color chip or palette of, certainly before they put it on the home.
And that's fine. As you may know, the Benjamin Moore Historic Color Palette is quite an impressive palette of colors, and we can provide the actual sample to Rita in the near future if that's necessary.
Yeah, I think that we'd appreciate that you're doing that. Normally we get to see him at a meeting, but we would like to see your actual choice if we could.
Mr. Smith.
Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, Mr. Smith, in speaking with Rita, I mean, the green is an acceptable color, but typically we like to keep it, a little kind of on the darker side. So I agree with you. We'd like to see, chips or examples of the color.
That's fine.
Richard, are you okay with that? I lost. We've lost Richard.
Oh, I'm here. Yes, we can provide the color sample to Greg and Rita. And if we need to go slightly darker with the green, we can go down the next color on the chip under the historic palette, whatever will be satisfactory. But the Georgian green is quite a nice color.
Okay.
Mr. Smith?
All right, thank you. Is everyone on the board ready to hear the landscaping plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Greg.
And Mr. Smith.
Greg, go ahead.
Yes, with respect to the shutters, I mean, you can work that into the motion if you want to have them turn the colors into the staff and the staff approve them. We've done this before with the house, as you know, the new house at the corner of Middle Road and Gulfstream Road, that we required them to come back, once the house was basically done and approve the shutters. I'm sure all of y'all remember that. So we can do it any way that you'd like. I mean, they did look pretty bright, and we would certainly like to, see examples of it. But whatever we do, I mean, we can work that into the motion if that's the way you want to go.
Thank you. I think we'll work it into the motion, and then if it's a color that you and Rita think we should see as an ARPP, then we can see that at one of our next meetings. They're not going to be putting those shutters up next month. Okay, thank you. Are we ready for Dave Vodker? I think so. Dave, you ready?
Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Would you, when you're talking, would you refer to a page that we are looking at? So we'll be looking at. Oh, you've got it up on screen. Okay.
Yeah, that's sheet L2.
Go ahead, Dave. Okay.
Can you see my cursor moving as a pointing tool?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. All right, so the planting in the front of the house that will be seen from Polo Drive includes an existing ficus tree that's about 25 foot height with a 34-foot spread. So that's this tree right here. The existing ficus tree will be underplanted with white begonias, green island ground cover, dwarf Asian jasmine ground cover, imperial bromeliads, And then 2 relocated pygmy date palms on either side, one here and one here that you can't see due to the canopy of the existing tree. On the north and south sides of the front yards, I am proposing relocated foxtail palms, one here and one here. Be underplanted with Ixora, liriope, and a 5-foot height clusia hedge along the property lines. So right along there and right along here are the clusia hedge. To frame the door, I'm proposing Sylvester date palms. There's one here and one here. They will be underplanted with bromeliads and dwarf Asian jasmine and Louisiana iris. The Japanese blueberry accent trees will be used on either side of the raised entrance. So there's one here and one here. Raised entrance will have a dwarf Ixora hedge wrapping around the courtyard. There will be artificial turf as the ground cover inside the entry courtyard. The north and south sides of the property will have a 5-foot height clusia hedge that runs the length on the north and again on the south. Everything on the sides will include existing and relocated palm trees as possible. There's a number of existing palms on either side, and we will try to maintain those in place if possible during the construction. Those palms will be supplemented by yellow elder flowering trees. And so there's one here, one there, and then one on the south side. Those are to fill in the gaps. You'll see when I show you the elevations to soften the elevation of the sides of the house. The east or rear side of the house, as Rich said, has a lot of existing all big vegetation. So there's a couple of existing ficus trees, and then underneath the ficus trees there is an existing areca palm hedge. Do that with some torch gingers that currently exist on site. Holly fern, Christmas palms are across here and across here, and then an Ixora hedge at the foundation of the proposed new building. These are the elevations. See those? This is the front elevation along Polo Drive. And so this is the existing ficus tree that will be maintained in place. The date palms flanking the front door. You can see one of them here, the other one's there. These are the relocated foxtail palms on either side of the circular drive. The blueberry trees are here. The rear elevation of the house, you can not see because of the existing vegetation. So this is the areca palms. These are the existing ficus trees. North and south side of the house, this is the south side. So there's some existing palm trees there, and we're going to supplement that with the yellow elder tree here. The north side has palms, and then we'll fill in the gaps with these yellow elder trees that are here. Here, the north and south also have that proposed 5-foot clusia hedge. And I want to mention that the property is going to be raised about 2 feet with a low retaining wall. And so that 5-foot hedge will essentially become a 7-foot high hedge. So with that, any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
Mr. Chairman Smith, this is Greg. Yes.
Go ahead, Greg.
I would direct the board to sheet L1. And what it is the tree disposition list. As you know, we pay a lot more attention to that now. And so I just wanted to point that out to you. And it becomes important when they begin to, apply for their land clearing permits and demolition permits, so that there's no confusion. And I might ask Mr. Bodker if he can, just to, as you can see, there are some trees that are called to be removed, and maybe Mr. Bodker can just quickly kind of go through those tree removals.
Okay,
We-
so if everyone,
We as a staff always get questions when people come in with the land clearing permits now about trees and what's staying and what's going. So
Dave?
yeah, are you guys looking at sheet L1?
Yep.
Okay, so most of the trees that are being removed are along the north side or in the rear of the property. And majority of those are either palm trees or small, there's a small guava tree on the north side. And the ones that are being removed on the sides are being removed because they will be too close to the construction of the new house.
okay, thank you. I just wanted to point that out to the board because you know, again, when we start dealing with the land clearing permit, this becomes very, very important. So thank you, Dave. Didn't mean to throw that curve at you.
That's okay.
Dave,
Yeah. In the front of the property, there's some very nice plant material, so we plan on relocating that and using it on site. What we try to do is move these things only one time so that we don't have to store them and bring them back onto the property. So we're hoping that the new locations are locations where we can put the trees initially and leave them so that we're moving them one time. They have a better rate of survival, also the expense of doing so.
Can I ask a
And I want
question?
to make sure it's clear that on the sides of the house where we're showing what are the heavy dots, the trees that have a dashed line indicating their canopy, we're going to try to keep those trees. Their locations are hopefully far enough away from the new construction to where they can remain where they currently exist. But with existing plant material and construction, you know, it's always tricky.
Georgette, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. You mentioned you were raising.
Georgette, did you have a question?
Yes. You mentioned you were going to raise 2 feet. Is that what you said? Because
It's approximately. So there will be a low retaining wall on either side of the property to be able to raise the property as required. That's correct, right, Rich Jones?
I believe so, yes, about 2 feet. It's a segmented block retaining wall.
And so that block wall, Georgette, has a finish on either side that will be facing the adjacent properties.
On both sides. Okay.
As a follow-up, Dave, this is Tom. The screen you have up is IL1. Looks really different from the one I have in my handout called IL1. The screening on the north and south side seems to be way more in what I'm looking at than you're showing me on the screen. Has there been a change?
There was a change, and
I can see a whole lot more of the house.
Right. I talked with one of the neighbors to the north, and we went through the plan thoroughly, and they were concerned about how much light they would lose fishtail palms that were originally proposed to screen this house. And so we talked it over with Tom and with Mr. Lyons, and agreed to go with the Clusia hedge and some of the existing ponds rather than put such a high barrier on either side. So the plan was changed. I thought that y'all had received the revised version in your plans.
Oh, maybe we did.
It came out as an addendum.
Right, we did.
I have it.
Okay.
And so
All right,
what
hold
we're
on.
Yes, Mr.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, Dave, now I'm sorry, it is in the addendum. So the follow-up question is, the neighbors on the north and south have both approved this, Greg? And
now on the north, they have reviewed it, and this was, a solution to the screening that we discussed with Mr. Lyons. We have not reviewed this with the homeowner to the south.
And Chairman Smith, we have not heard any comments from the residents of the south.
okay. We've reached out to her though, haven't we?
I don't know
Greg,
if
did we reach out to the neighbor to the south? They were notified.
oh yes, absolutely. I mean, all the neighbors directly next to them for sure get notices about it, and so we have not heard any comments from anybody that we sent notices to.
I'll mention this, that when I was on site doing the field work, locating and identifying the existing vegetation, the gentleman from across the street, across Polo Drive, came over and kind of gave us some things that, he considered important as far as the existing vegetation as well.
All right, are there any other members of the board that have questions of either Richard or Dave? No? Okay, are we ready to make a motion? Would someone proceed with a motion, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of a land clearing permit to clear the land for construction. I also note that the landscape architect has provided the tree disposition list on page L1 of the set of plans.
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Dougherty,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Murphy, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Roche,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. We'll record it as 4-0 at this point. Okay, Bob, would you proceed?
Sure. I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of a demolition permit to demolish all structures on the site.
I think he's having.
And I'll second.
Back in and out.
Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Dougherty,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Murphy, Mr. Roche,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. And finally, Bob, I believe there's one more motion if you would make it.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of a level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the construction of a 1-story, 5,240 square foot, single-family Gulfstream Bermuda-style home with 2 one-car garages, a swimming pool, 300 square foot guest cottage meets the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the owner of the property shall prepare and sign a Gulfstream driveway removal agreement. And 2, any minor modifications in approval landscaping shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modification shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of landscaping.
And don't we need an
With the
approval?
addition of, yeah, go ahead, Georgette.
I think we also wanted an approval of the paint chip color.
And Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, so Bob, would you add to your third motion that the final color of the shutter shall be approved by staff or brought to the ARPB board if necessary?
What we can do is,
Sure.
because you had to go at 9:45, and
So
you can put them in.
I can add to the third motion that the chip color for the shutters be approved, brought back into the town to be approved.
And I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have?
You got it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Rita, would you do a roll call?
You got it. You got it. Okay.
Yes.
You got it. Okay. Have a good day.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Smith? Chairman Smith?
Tom, can you hear her?
Yes. Okay.
Mr.
Yes.
Smith, can I break in here for a second? This is Renee. Mr. Murphy called and said his whole house has
Yes.
no Wi-Fi right now. So what we would like to do is to make Miss Jones a panelist for the remainder of the meeting.
Certainly, that's good. Okay.
Okay,
And
so
I
let
think
me
we'll
get her.
record the vote on those. Yeah, go ahead.
Then Miss Jones, are you ready to accept a WebEx? Can you share your webcam?
Yes.
All right, there you go. We should be good to go. And Mr. Murphy said to please
Mandy.
apologize profusely for him having to do this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bob. All right, we've finished with the second item on the agenda. We need to move to the third item, which has to do with a lot near the entrance to Place Au Soleil. Is there anyone on the meeting today that wants to be sworn in that's going to discuss the application? Mr. Snavely. Rita, would you swear Mr. Snavely in?
Yes. Would you please give us your name?
Chester Snavely.
All right. Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
If there's anyone that intends to speak towards this application, please give your name.
Okay, it looks like it's maybe just Mr. Snavely. We have quite a few handouts, but you have the floor if you'd like to proceed.
Sure, thanks. This is a property I believe the town is very familiar with over the years. It's been in extreme disrepair since the mid-90s when Mrs. What's her name? Lavoie, when Mrs. Lavoie passed away. It was left to her son, who was Richard Lavoie, and Richie didn't do a very good job of keeping the property up, as is documented in the town minutes and also in the Coastal Star. I befriended Richie about 5 years ago when I was when I became the HOA chairman here at Plaza Soleil. I came to agreement with Richie to remove the planting area on the western property line of this property, and we replace it with a Clusia hedge, which is there now. It's about a 10-foot high Clusia hedge. In getting to meet and know Richie, I became pretty good friends with Richie, and over the years, I took care of repairing the house, painting the roof, and painting the house just so it looked fairly acceptable coming in and out of the development. Richie had mental issues and was not able to put this together himself. Because of the disrepair of the house, it had holes in the roof that leaked for probably, I would make a guess at 10 years or better. We repaired the roof, painted the roof, but the inside of the house is riddled with black mold. The town of Gulfstream had required, as a release of the liens on the property previously, that the house be demolished. It was under agreement to the next door neighbor to combine his lot and this lot and put on a substantially larger house than what he has now. When that contract did not materialize, the executors of the Lavoie estate went to the town and asked them to remove the demolition requirement so that they could more easily market the property. When I found this out, I was concerned because the house has to come down. I didn't want to see somebody come in there, put a couple Band-Aids and some lipstick on the house and flip the house. I don't care, not for profit. I didn't want that to happen for the neighborhood. So I bought the house. I own it now. My intent is to remove the house, remove foundations, remove the floor slab, sod that area, and temporarily install a sprinkler system to sprinkle the lot. The only tree that is worth saving on the lot is a large mango tree to the rear of the property. The rest of the trees are diseased, overgrown. They are Brazilian pepper trees, parrotwood trees, a large chevalier plant, 2 cabbage palms, and a large Norfolk pine. None of which I think are indigenous species to the area here. So it's my intent to remove the house, sprinkle the entire lot. Of course, we'll be leaving the hedge, the Clusia hedge, and we'll be leaving the perimeter plantings, which are overgrown ficus plantings, which I will trim down and get those back to a healthy condition. That's about the extent of my architectural prowess here with this lot.
Okay, so does anyone on the board have any questions? I have one question, Chester. So initially, with the removal of all the trees that you've given us in one of the plans, it'll just be a big open space, no home, really no trees other than on the borders, at least for the time being. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and you're going to sod it and irrigate the entire property? And
No.
and you individually are going to maintain? No? Okay.
No.
Say
I'm going
that-
to
what-
sod. I'm going to sod where I remove the house, and we're going to sprinkle.
Right.
We're going to add sprinklers and probably seed the back, but we're going to keep it mowed and maintained.
Okay. And your long-term idea is that you'll market the property at some time in the future?
Yeah, I'm not in any hurry. I'm just, it'll stay there. And if somebody comes along and says that they really want to put a house there and meet you folks, I'll consider selling it. But that's not my intent right now.
Mr. Smith, this is Renee again.
Yes?
Mr. Murphy called and he wanted it on the record that he wanted to show his appreciation to Mr. Snavely. And he wanted that in the minutes because he said he is very appreciative for what you have done with this property.
Okay, so we will read that. We'll read Malcolm's comments into the minutes if we could. Thank you, Malcolm. And Mr. Snavely, I think we probably need to thank you also. I'm sure everyone that lives there is going to be very, very happy with what you're going to do here. I don't think that, Greg, are you listening still, or Trey?
Yes.
Do we need comments from the neighbor, or were there any comments from the neighbor to the east?
I'd have to ask Rita if she received any comments about it, but I don't believe so. Is Rita on?
Yes, and there have been no contact from any of the notices that were sent out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, if there are no other questions, would someone make a motion?
I'll
Bob, Robert?
You want me to do
Oh,
it?
Curtis, go ahead. Yes,
I'll make a
please.
motion to recommend approval of a land clearing permit to clear the property of non-native and diseased trees to prepare for new sod and irrigation.
Is there a second? Bob, you're seconding? Okay.
Mr.
All right,
Doherty, you
Rita,
need to
would
turn
you
your
please-
microphone on.
I'm sorry. Yes, I second.
Okay, good. All right, Rita, would you please?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Mr. Roche,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. Thank you. And Curtis, would you continue, please?
Okay, and I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan to demolish all buildings and pavement on the property and to grade, irrigate, sod, and seed the property.
I second the motion.
There a second?
I second the motion. There's a second?
Okay, Rita.
Okay, Rita.
Mr. Doherty, Mr. Doherty,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith, Mrs.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Snavely. I think everyone appreciates what you're going to be doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that concludes the third item on the agenda. We need to move to the fourth item. I believe there is someone that wants to speak and needs to be sworn in.
Would you please give your name?
Hi, good morning, Cynthia Spray.
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Rita, would you have?
You solemnly swear to tell us so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that will be item?
This is Lee Levine. I'm the homeowner. I'm not sure I need to speak. Cynthia's gonna.
Well, if you're gonna speak, you need to be.
Okay. Okay.
Would you raise your right hand?
Okay.
I do solemnly swear.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the whole truth, and nothing but
I do.
Okay. I think we're ready. Cynthia, you have the floor.
Okay. I don't see my presentation. Rebecca or Renee?
It takes just a second, so it should be coming up.
And is the echo coming?
I think it may be you. Can you turn your volume down a little bit?
Yeah, okay, no problem. Okay, does that work better?
I still have an echo.
For now. Hello?
Yeah, we're not sure where the echo is coming from.
Hello? Not hearing anything.
Ms. Spray's control of the screen, so you should be able to roll through the slides at this point.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Cynthia, it should be you. I think you're the only one that can speak and you have the control.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Okay, so everybody should have 11 by 17 handout. I think there's 14 drawings of the submittal, level 2 submittal. Okay, perfect. So we have a submittal that we submitted back in January, presented in February, and then we have some natural architectural progression, some changes that we've made throughout the duration of the project, and some cost savings. So that's why we're back here to present again. So, okay, so that's the 14 pages. Then I also submitted 11 by 17 in color of this presentation. So I don't know if that made the circulation and everybody got to see that or not, but it really, you know, a photo's worth 1,000 words and tells the story. So this is the same presentation from February, but it's updated with the revisions that we have. Okay, so this lot, I'm going to move my cursor. Okay, this is the property at 1555 North Ocean Boulevard. Okay, this is 100 feet north-south, and this is 589 feet to the ocean for the lot size. So it's beautiful lot size. So property owners bought this with the intent of enjoying the view out to the ocean. And it's a 2-story home existing, 10,000 square feet. It was built in late 1990s, early 2000s. And the original homeowner built a small appendage out here, which is a cabana, an exercise room, and guest house with a sauna and a bathroom. So obviously, and you'll see in the progression of these slides, when you're inside the home, this building blocks the view of the ocean. So the homeowners bought this with the intent of removing this appendage and then extending out here an outdoor summer kitchen, living room, and dining area with a covered terrace that projects off this existing second floor terrace. So in terms of floor plan in the house, broad brushstrokes is that this space up here on the second floor is the master bedroom suite, this wing here, and there's a terrace that's existing, and we're going to remove a portion of the balustrade on that terrace and then extend it out to about here. Another piece that's critical to this property is there is some existing AC and pool equipment here that is walled with an elegant, it's a 4-foot high wall, and then there's elegant landscaping surrounding it. So it's it blends, and when you're standing at this pool deck or inside the home, this little equipment yard blends with the existing landscape. You don't, it's not obvious and it doesn't block the view. So right now, okay, I'm going to change slides. I think I just click to move forward with the slide. Renee?
Yes, you should be able to either roll your mouse or you should be able to click through on your keyboard.
Oh, okay. Let's do keyboard.
There you go.
Okay, so this is the front gate from A1A, and what I do in this photograph series is to show you what the property looks like from the front and then walk you through to the rear of the property. So there's existing landscaping, 150, almost 150 feet from the property line to this facade of existing landscaping and drive. That's all existing to remain. Okay, there's the front of the house. I'm going to move to the rear because the rear is the focus of the project. So currently, if standing out the pool, looking at the rear facade, this is the east face of the building. This is that master bedroom suite that I was talking about, and this is the terrace off the master bedroom suite. So what we're going to do is remove this portion of this terrace and then extend out. And there's some other minor modifications to this facade that I will discuss as we move through the presentation. Okay, so this is from the rear. This is that little building I was talking about. This is 351 square feet to be removed. Okay, this is the view. This is what the property and the project is about. It's about this view and enjoying the experience. So this is going to go away, and then we'll project outwards with the new proposed colonnade loggia and capture this little segment of view that is blocked right now. Okay, this is another aerial shot to give you a scope of the property. Okay, so this is an existing massing model, and the intent of this is to show you what we have now, and then in the next slide, you're going to see what's to be removed. Okay, so this building is to be removed. This portion of this existing terrace is to be removed, and then it will be rebuilt. These columns are to be rebuilt. This small appendage here is to be removed, and you'll see that this extension of roof is to extend back to this facade and match existing. So I'm going to skip over to this side. So right now, I don't know if you imprinted on your memory what that looked like before, but it's this shape, this little balcony. It's to be, not the balcony is existing to remain. However, the cast stone columns are to be removed and the balustrades are to be removed. And the intent here is that when we have the new colonnade set up over here, we're going to match this shape to that new colonnade. And then what's happening here is that we, again, with the view being the most important part of the project, we're looking at distributing, possibly modifying the 3 windows at the ground and the 3 windows at the second floor to, in lieu of 3 windows, I'd like to see 2 large picture windows at each level. Okay. Here's the proposed loggia addition. So this is very similar to what we had before. However, when we proposed before, we did not have any general contractors on the team yet. And so in terms of project progression, what we've done is to see some cost savings by leaving this element here and projecting the new loggia out. And then in addition, we've refined the elegance of these columns, which we did talk about in the February presentation. We had talked that we were going to try to refine this rhythm. And so you're seeing a natural progression there of that refinement. And then over here, this is the proposed redesign of the balcony at the southeast. And here are the 2 picture windows that you're seeing at the east facade. In addition, at the 3 walled 2-story segment here, we've enlarged the windows at each of these existing locations. Okay, so this is what we presented in February, and I have this here. Hi, do you need me to sign? Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is the original design, right? And so, as I said, we had a column rhythm that we needed to refine, which is what you've seen now. And in addition, we left an existing was the terrace at the master bedroom. So let me back up. Okay, this is the proposed, I mean, this is existing to remain, but this is the proposed design. So this is existing to remain, and then the new project, the new addition projects off of that existing. Okay, this is what we had proposed back in February. So it just gives you a sense of what we modified. This was a second drawing that we proposed in February at that presentation of trying to modify the columns to make them a little bit more refined, but we were not at the end yet. Now I think we're at the end and we're very happy with our design. Okay, so this is what it looks like existing from the north property. And the idea here was to show you that we have existing tree landscape, we have an existing 6-foot high wall, and okay, this is again showing you what's being removed at the rear of the property. And this is showing you the proposed at the rear of the property. Also, I need to mention that if I go backwards, you'll see in the original proposal, we had a stair, a spiral stair taking you to the second floor terrace on the inside of the loggia. What we've done now is to relocate that to the outside of the loggia. It's still very elegant. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so here it is relocated to the outside of the loggia. And also remember, there is landscaping all along this facade. There's the landscaping to give you a sense of the height. Okay, this was the reference back to the February presentation. So you can see that the heights have not changed for the project. That's the proposed today. This is the old. Okay. Okay, at the front of the building, okay, remember how we've modified the back balcony and we've removed the balustrades? So at the front of the property, what we're doing is removing these balustrades and replacing them with the same type of railing that we have at the loggia at the back. So, and then in addition, this front door is a wood panel double door. And what we're doing is you'll see it's got little coffers inside the wood paneling. So what we're going to do is replace those wood panel doors with new doors that match the same rhythm of that design. However, the paneling is to be glass. Okay, so this slide shows you here the balustrades being removed. Okay, this is the railing proposed. It matches the same railing as the rear of the property. And then here's the proposed front door. And I do have a photo. That's the proposed front door, which is to replace, right now the door, these are solid elements in the door. And what we would like to do is just replace the solid coffered elements with glass. Okay, and this was from January 3rd, well, from February. This was our original design at the loggia at the front facade. And so what we've done is to leave intact an existing balcony that's there and just replace the railing. And I think that's the end. So what I'm going to do is go back to the slide that shows the rear of the project and just sit on that. Oh, we do have our survey in this presentation too, I believe. You should have a copy of the survey as well. Okay, so that concludes my presentation.
So the windows on the back that you're replacing, the picture windows, are those bigger than the original windows?
They are.
So the ones, the big picture and the ones to the north also are bigger? So
They are
all of
large.
them.
Yes.
And they're just glass. There's no,
So currently what we're doing is playing with different ideas about,
Cynthia, there's a lot of glass on the back. I think that's probably what Georgette's asking, and there's a lot of different shapes. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Can I say something as a homeowner? The actual living room windows, the top and the bottom will remain the same size as they currently are, except that instead of having 3 windows, we're gonna have 2 windows.
Oh, okay. So did you hear that? So that's new information. That's the height will stay the same. So let me go back to the slide that shows you the 3. Okay. So the height will stay the same on those windows, which is a little smaller than what's showing on the rendering that I just showed you. However, we're going to show 2 plate glass windows, 2 fixed picture windows instead of the rhythm of 3.
but to the right of that, they're much bigger on the second story.
Right, right. So yeah, let me go to the photograph. If I go to the photo, you can see. Okay, there's the rhythm of 3 at the living room and upstairs at the living room. This is the rhythm of 3 at the master bedroom suite. And they do have a sill height of, I think, 36 inches inside. And same thing down here, they do have a sill height of about 3 feet inside. And so what we're proposing is to stretch them up and down. They'll keep the same width, but we're going to stretch them up and down, if that makes sense. So we are enlarging windows to capture the view.
But does the amount of glass fall within the criteria of the of glass display on within the code?
The window wall ratio, yes, I believe it does.
And what percentage is that, Cynthia? Do you know?
I don't have that offhand. I need to calculate it, but yeah.
But you have done the work to make sure that it is.
I've looked at it. I don't have the calculations offhand, but we have looked at it.
My concern is just all the different window styles, you know, some arched, some picture, some.
Yeah.
If I could inject again, I'm sorry. We're actually keeping exactly the same style that is there now. It goes back to the actual picture. The top ones, it looks square in her design here, but they actually, the 2 have a small angle, just like the ones to the east side, I mean, to the north side, those.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
If you actually look at the picture, the physical picture, can you switch to that, Cynthia, of the structure as it is right now? There you go.
Okay, so this is angled, this is flat, and this is angled. Okay.
Right.
So
what we're trying to do is, yes, kind of harmonize so that everything has a very similar look, instead of right now the house has square ones, has angle ones, it has all these different windows that we're trying to work with.
So, right, I was thinking about the style, you know, these are divided lights on most of them, and then there's big glass on the new ones, and that's what I see.
Yeah, we could put the I forgot what they're called.
Muntins.
Yeah. On the 2, but the idea was to be able to kind of have a cleaner look right in the middle instead of all these. It just looks very congested as it is now.
I would have to say that I prefer the look of the 3 windows to the 2 big pane, unbroken. I mean, there's no painting to them. It's just a single slab of glass. I think it stands out like a sore thumb. Thank you.
So the intent here, okay. Let me see if the slide will move forward. Well, it seems to be locked up. Okay, so here's an option. We have, if we were to install 2 fixed windows at this location on the ground floor and the second floor, okay? Right now, let me see if I can get to that slide. Mine is locked up. Am I the only one that controls this, Renee, or do you have access to this?
I believe Rebecca might have access.
No,
Do
I don't
you?
have controls.
Oh, no,
you have
it works. It seemed to work with the mouse. Okay. Okay, so if we do this, let me see.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so if we install the mullions here, actually they would be muntins. I don't know that we would have mullions, but on them, this setup here, okay, we would keep the same rhythm of 2/3 and 2/3 on these 2 picture windows. And on this set here, we would also add back in the rhythm of 2/3 because we preserved it here on these 2 sides because we were actually reusing existing windows at those locations. So I think if you were to do that, obviously the picture window on its own is introducing a new window type to the project, but I think if you were to do that, then you would match the rest of the fabric of the facade. I don't think that it would be a detriment, and I don't think that the variation in windows would be so pronounced.
The exterior detailing that surrounds the windows, would that remain intact or would that have to be altered?
So that one I'm going to defer to the homeowner because that's been a question of yes or no.
Right now, it has cast stone on it, so we would have to remove it to replace the windows and then replace the cast stone.
So you've replaced the cast stone?
Yes. The only difference is that instead of having the 3 panes, we would have 2 panes. If you're sitting inside the house, it's very difficult to see the ocean from these very narrow windows that are installed there currently. So by doing 2 panes, at least it gives you a wider look of the ocean versus having to have these very narrow, because what's currently there are actual doors. They're not used as doors, but they're actual doors, so the framing is very wide on them and makes the house very busy from the back. So all we're looking to do is expand the view some from the inside.
Okay. I agree with you, Amanda. I think that the painting needs to be there to make it all flow. Okay, and then I have a question regarding to you all. Does it, when it's facing east, does everything have to have panes or no? Because my understanding is that if it's facing east and nobody could see it other than us, it could be more clear, like many of our neighbors have.
I think it should be painted to be in keeping with the rest of the house, because if something were to happen to landscaping down the road, then they would be visible. So I think it has to be all done in keeping. Keep it consistent.
So, okay, just to recap, that's why I suggested adding the fenestration back at the 2/3 rhythm back to each of the picture windows. So would be allowed to do that and keep the picture windows. And Lee, would you be okay with that? Because at least that way we could preserve the picture windows.
Yes, it's fine.
I'm going to go back to this existing slide.
I think in this slide, you could actually see how narrow those picture windows are. This is the main living room. When you walk into the house, you could hardly see the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, you buy a house on the ocean to get an ocean feel. Most homes in our, east of A1A, you could even see it from, if they have their gates open, you could actually see the ocean from their doors. And that's why we were suggesting to put glass panes in the front to add light. The house is very, very dark inside. And it's mostly because of these really small windows.
To give you a sense
Yeah.
of dimension in here, this
Mhm.
is 28 inches wide. This is 15 inches wide, and then back to 28, and then 15 and 28. So that gives you a sense of scale when you're inside the home looking towards the ocean. You've got heavy 15-inch by 7'9" high intermediaries between the narrow windows. So that's the intent of the picture windows. But I do see what you're saying, that you'd like for the picture windows to match the fabric of the rest of the facade. And that's normal. So that's why I suggested if we do change them to picture windows, then we do keep the muntins on them and keep the rhythm of 2/3 to match the existing fabric. But at least the picture windows is something that I do want to fight for the client, because again, it captures the view and the home is so dark inside. So that's the intent.
I don't think we're fighting the picture window concept. It's just architecturally from the rear, it's just they don't look like they were ever designed into the home that way. They, they're squares, and the other ones have decorative borders to them. And I think we like the idea of you opening up the light in the room, but can't you put those picture windows? What you really want to do is remove the columns in the upper threes and the bottom, and so there's more light.
That's
Right.
actually
But,
what we're
but can't you get?
We
You
go
can't
ahead.
I'm sorry, you can't get a single pane, which we would have loved because of the structural, because of the windstorm requirements. So we had to divide it into two. If we could have made that whole section into one whole solid piece or two pieces, it would have been beautiful. And it would have been architecturally beautiful as well, because that would be a highlight of the house.
So I just want to suggest, I'm going to go back to the rear facade. Okay. So actually, from what Lee said in this render, this header height will be lower, and this sill height will be a little bit higher. It will match what's there now. But again, we would put a center muntin here, and then across we would come with 2 members. So again, we'd be 2/3 and 2/3. And again, the stone, same thing up here, and the stone surround would be added back in to these windows. So I mean, it would keep the character. And I do see what you're saying about the new proposal not matching the character, but I think that it would keep that character with that stone surround and that same rhythm.
The other thing is, did you try and see if you still made it 3 panels, but rather than have wall, which is how it is existing, just have a broken window where it's like, that's a wrong expression, but where it's 3 sheets of glass, it's 3 openings and then mullioned, rather than have 2, because currently with 2, you're going to have that big solid line right in the center of your view. Wouldn't it be better to have a larger panel in the middle and then maybe 2 narrower panels on either side, so you have more of an unbroken view?
We can definitely study that. I mean, I would defer again to the homeowner on that one, because, again, the intent was to try to install 1 plate glass pane, and that was not feasible with the impact glass sizes that are available in the market. So this was the next best thing, and so we didn't study it further to divide it into 3, but we could amend that. I would defer to Lee. I don't know that, Lee, what do you think?
The division on these are very minor compared to right now we have 14 inches of division between every door.
Yes.
This would be about 3 inches. So it's giving us a clear view. If we break it up into 3, then you have, you're again having to deal with the divisions. I mean, I don't know what's available out there. I think, when you look at it in perspective or live, you see it totally different than maybe what's shown on the rendering right now. Because, the availability of putting in the actual window in there. So I personally, as the homeowner, when we walk in, we want to be able to enjoy the ocean. This was having a 3-inch division versus 2 14-inch divisions right now, plus the sides. I mean, the space is not that large. Do you have the space there, Cynthia, the total space on the window, the 3 of them? I think it's 8.5 feet. So it's not like if we put 3 glasses, we're going to end up almost where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is bringing light into the house and bringing in view, which it does not have at this point.
Well, should we give you guys a chance to think about that and come back to us maybe with just this particular issue on these 2 windows when you can find out what is available? We all agree that it would expand the view, and I think that's a great idea. It's just a matter of it doesn't look at all like it was designed into the home the way it's given to us here.
Yeah, the thing is there's different manufacturers, and we're dealing also with timing. So, some manufacturers take 4 to 6 months, and now with the COVID, everything's extended way out. So we were trying to find a manufacturer that had the windows that we need on the size, basically keeping exactly the same size that we have now, so we don't have to break into the opening and fit the 2 panes of glass. So, it looks very simplistic in this. We could, resubmit something, but, we're dealing with time. We bought the lot in October, and now we're, almost June. And we're looking to be able to start construction and get moving with this.
Could we propose that we move forward and then we come back next week with the final window design towards the end of the week?
And just to add one more thing, these windows are wooden windows. So the amount of manufacturers that have wooden windows is limited. These are Tischler windows right now. So to match those on the interior so that you keep the same flow inside and it doesn't look different, it's again very limited. If we were just going to use the typical wind resistant windows, they're all over, and we could probably get something, but that wouldn't go with this type of house.
So is Tischler making these specifically for that space?
No, Tischler would be 1.5 years before we could get windows. So we went out and got the closest to it. Yeah. And that's why we're reusing the windows that we currently have and taking those to the north side windows. And that's why you see the extension. So we're keeping the same windows that we had in the living room right now and using those, what would be the breakfast room. I can't point from, but those north side 3 windows that now go from basically floor to ceiling are the same windows that the Tischler windows that we're moving over. So it keeps the same exact look.
Okay, well, I'm just sensing the feel of the whole committee that I don't think what we're seeing here is something that we would want to approve. And I'm strictly limiting my comments to those windows off of the main room in the home, I'm sure. And we understand you want the view and we would want it too. It's just that They just don't look like they would have been in the original architectural design of the home in that shape or form. So I think we'd like you to come back to us specifically with what you recommend to make it more conforming to the rest of the back of the house. Am I wrong there, committee, or are we?
I really feel
do we
like,
want to?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I really feel like the sketch right now is not conforming with exactly what we're doing. So I think Cynthia did it to give you an idea of what we were doing, but because the shapes look different, it sticks out more. It looks more like sliding doors, which is not.
So here's a question I have. Could we propose to continue to move forward with the project? However, there's option A and option B. Either option A is that we leave these as is, okay, and only enlarge these, and we keep mullions on these, so we have the same rhythm. Option B would be that we come back next week with our final design with something that is much more in line with the fabric of the facade. So, but at any rate, we still do want to keep moving forward, at least with this component of the project and this component and the front door. These components, a little bit of a balancing act because we're also still evaluating different costs with it. So, we'd like to keep the project moving forward, but obviously understand your concerns about this facade right here. So, could we keep moving forward and propose that either A, we leave this alone and modify these, or B, we come back at the end of next week with a final decision on this? Is that possible?
Yes, I think anything's possible. Greg, what would be, or Trey, what would be the best way to handle this? Incidentally, can we all look quickly at A5.0? It's in the hand. It's not in the colored handouts. It's in the, the architectural drawings, because it's really clear in that. If you look at that on the bottom, it's the east elevation. And it's not going to be up on the screen, but when you look at that, it's clearly, these are just two big giant rectangles with a bar in the middle of them. And if you look at that picture, there's nothing about those windows that look anything like anything on either side of them. So Cynthia, that's what we'd want you to do with those windows, is make them somehow conform more with the look on either side of them. I mean, there's just two big squares there, two big rectangles.
Right.
There's no windows like that on the back of the house, except for the other ones you've drawn, okay?
Right. Well, part of it was
we could move.
I was just going to say that part of it was our understanding that from the beach side of the property, since it's not really a public side, that deviating a little bit from the character of that facade was allowed just because it was from the beach side. But I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to find that slide. Actually, it is in the presentation. So let's get there. That's it.
Keep coming, yeah, you'll get to it. There's a delay for them to show up on the screen. They take a little longer than.
Should be there.
Well, it takes a little while. It's a little bit of the delay from what you're doing for what we're seeing. We're still seeing A2.4.
Me too. I see that too.
We need A5.
One more.
Here's A5.
A5. Okay, yeah, so I'm looking at the bottom. Yeah.
A5-1.
So, I think we're talking about primarily all your proposed changes in the middle of the upstairs and downstairs of the home.
May I say something?
And I believe it's the only thing. Pardon me?
May I say something? That A5.0, the windows, that doesn't show any form of arty. Neither does it show any of the architectural detailing surrounding the window. That is
Correct.
okay. We need to see that.
That's the one.
So if we were to redo this design, so it
Okay.
looks more accurate to what we're actually doing, would that help you guys and, visualize what you all want to see? I thought, maybe we thought that talking it through, we could relate the changes that we wanted to make. I understand you not, grasping it from what we're seeing here. Because it's to me too, it's not exactly, it doesn't have the structure, it doesn't have it, what exists there now, which we're not removing. So if we were to go back to give you a more realistic look of what it would look like in an elevation, would that suffice?
Yeah, I certainly think we want to see.
We could provide a color rendering of the proposed facade at the rear with the modifications that you're asking for. That's no problem. But my ask was just, could we keep moving forward and again get back next week with a facade for that fenestration that
so
matches.
I think that would be the consensus of the committee.
Chairman Smith? This is Greg, and I actually have Trey in my room.
I think we don't need to hold up the whole rest of the project. Correct, Greg? Can we?
Okay, well, here's the issue. I mean, if that area of the two large windows there is part of the demolition of the other areas of the house, I mean, that to get a demolition permit, I mean, you would have to, not include that. And recommendation is that, to get a demolition permit and start on the demo of the entire, of everything that needs to be demoed will include that, as opposed to leaving that out and coming back later. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So, yeah, I mean, we'd like for them to be able to move forward, but I think that area is included in the demolition, that would be included in the demolition permit.
We actually have the GC on, so maybe she could speak as well as where we stand with that and how they would handle that.
Yes, hi Rita, it's Natalie from Archullian Homes. Can you please swear me in?
Raise your right hand, please. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. So the way we would have to move forward if we needed to submit to revise the openings for these windows would be to submit a revision. So we would be able to move forward with demolition and with the new construction of the loggia. And then once the windows are sorted out, we would just submit a revision to that facet of the work.
But they have to have an initial approval. Do they have an initial?
But Mr. Smith, they have to have an initial approval, and we can't approve that next week. That would have to be at a regular meeting.
Okay, so we can't approve the demolition because we don't approve that until we know what it's going to be like after the demolition.
That's correct. I mean, we can't approve a change in this next week. We have to do that at a regular board meeting.
So it was my understanding that the demolition was actually approved at the previous meeting.
Yeah, it was approved with what, yeah, it was approved at the previous meeting, but not with this change.
Correct. So, and then on this middle, it's we're requesting approval for the construction of a loggia and then the demolition of windows. So those are two separate permits. One is a building permit, one is a demolition permit. So would we be able to move forward with the building permit and hold off on the demolition permit on this application?
So, I mean, we don't break up the approvals of these between the demolition and the construction or the work to the loggia. And yes, it was approved at the last meeting, but with the former design. So
if I'm looking at the agenda, it's actually pulled out as two separate items, like 1 and 2. So one is a demolition permit, and one is for the level 2 site plan review. So I would need some clarification there to fully understand why we wouldn't be able to move forward with just the construction of the loggia itself.
But doesn't it include some demolition to it before you can do that?
It would include demolition that was already approved on the previous application, which is that Cabana house. I'm not sure why that got included on this submittal. Demolishing that existing Cabana structure was already previously approved.
Yeah, but there were other parts to the demolition besides the loggia to the demolition plan, and I thought that included this area here.
It includes part of the roof line on the existing master balcony, which again does not impact those windows. So those should be handled separately on separate submittals. I'm not sure why that was included on this round. That was addressed last submittal in February.
Yes, Board, I'm just going to have to ask you to hold on a second. I'm talking to Rebecca at this point.
Would it be possible to make a motion to approve with the exclusion of these 4 picture windows right now?
I think that's what they're checking on for you. Let's give them a second.
What?
Cynthia, you need to wait. They're speaking right now, looking at some records.
Okay.
Okay, here's our suggestion is that they do have a permit to demolish the area for the loggia construction. And so what we would recommend is that, that they could move forward with the loggia under that permit, but with the exception that, that they would not work on those windows until, until they do a revision and the board has approved the final design.
Understood. So the windows will have to come back to a regular meeting, if I'm
Correct.
understanding. Okay.
That's correct.
Understood.
We will issue a rendering, an accurate rendering, so you get a better feel. I think, if I was to see it even as the homeowner, it doesn't give you the feel that we're trying to capture with what we're doing from this rendering.
Right.
Excuse me, this is Trey. Just procedurally, I just wanted to say that the motion would be to approve just the loggia area. And the approval for the windows would be postponed to a time certain, which would be the next architectural review and planning board meeting, at which time you give them specific information that you want regarding those changes to be brought back.
So does that require another meeting, or is this just a submittal of a accurate rendering?
No, it would require approval at the board level.
Right. And one other question on demolition, did it include that, as we're looking at the back of the home, that demolition permit also included the changes to the south, those windows near the south side of the rear? You know, there was a balcony. That, are we approving that with the loggia at the same time?
That's right.
And only restricting?
I mean, that's up to the board. If you believe that that area is acceptable based on the standards of the code, you would approve that portion and just leave off the portion that is not agreeable to the board.
Okay.
Well, I do have a question though, a clarification. Okay. So on this current design, okay, the header height and the sill height will be reduced on both upstairs and downstairs, and we're going to add the mullion rhythm back to whatever we propose, and keep the surrounds. Am I correct?
Yes, if that's
You're
what
referring
you're,
to the big.
I
Go ahead,
think
Mr.
that's
Smith.
what I heard
Yeah,
for board feedback today, right?
I'm having a hard time with my sound. Can you repeat that?
I believe what I heard for board feedback today was if we retain these picture windows, we need to show the mullions on them. We need to show mullions on these, and we need to show the stone surround. And in addition, the header height is actually a little bit lower. It's in alignment with this header height. And same thing up here. So those are the updates that we need to reflect for the next meeting.
Yeah,
correct.
Yes.
Okay, Lee, okay.
So,
Go ahead, Cynthia.
I was just going to ask Lee, are you hearing the same thing?
yes, I believe it's exactly what we had said, that they just want to see the rendering with a realistic look to what we're trying to do with the house. Meaning that you could see all the stone and where the new stone would go and the actual shape of the windows.
And the mullions, though, we have to put the mullions back in.
Yes, that's fine.
yes.
But I have just a quick question
They're
here
using
to
them.
make sure that Cynthia understands. Is there a feeling on the board that these windows, that those windows that are being put in that are new, are going to be allowed to be rectangular as opposed to arched the way every other window is in the house? Or is Cynthia supposed to be proposing something with an arch?
Every other window is not arched in the house. If you go back to the realistic, the picture of the house, there's arched and there's square, as is right now.
However, the predominance is arched, correct?
Well, the ones next to it have square, and the current ones as is, the two arches are on the sides and the middle is square.
Okay, as long as the board concurs with that, you know, I just don't want you coming forward with something that isn't going to be palatable to the board at a future date. So I just wanted to get the feeling of the board on that.
I agree. This is difficult because you can't really all be together and have input, but believe me, we've invested a lot of money in this home, and we wouldn't want anything that is not going to look good on the home. Never mind, you know, the whole Gulfstream, you know, proposal and everything. It's our home, and we want it to be pleasing from inside, but more importantly, from the outside. So everything we would do would be to make sure that the house looks the best it could look. And we wouldn't want to install something that's just going to stick out like a sore thumb at all. It's our home.
Okay.
It's our investment. So. I think with a real life, rendering, you'll be able to capture what we're trying to do.
It
Hey,
would be
Tom.
helpful if they were, oh, go ahead, Bob.
Would it be helpful for
Bob?
the applicant to know that, would they like to have an approval on all of the loggia and all of that work? I think my sense is the board's ready to kind of give them that indication. So at least they have in their head that, okay, we just got to settle up on the 2 windows. Or do they want to wait for the next meeting?
We don't want to.
No, I think we want to give them.
Yeah.
We want to, Bob, I think we want a motion that just excludes our approval of the demolition and architectural look at those windows in the center of the back of the home. I think the loggia, and there's also some changes, remember, proposed to the south side of the back of the building too, the upstairs lows. They're going to tie in those columns to look like the loggia columns, I believe, right, Cynthia?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to, Bob, maybe take a stab at a motion for us and
I think I can make a motion that makes sense. Let me give this a go.
It's not easy.
So I would like to make a motion to approve a demolition permit less the 2 windows that we've discussed in this meeting to demolish an existing 351 square foot cabana and 2 second floor balcony railings.
It's more than the 2 windows though.
Right.
Well, and then we have a second motion.
Well, no, I mean, there's more than 2 windows.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's full. And then these need mullions.
Yeah.
And then, and the front door.
Well, I'm reading from what the staff suggested under the normal motions to approve. I think we're ready to do all those motions except these 2 windows.
Right. But I think what we're saying, Bob, is that there's more than 2 windows. It's 4 windows. That's what you want to say.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Sorry.
It's okay.
So do you want me to repeat, Tom, or what?
Yeah, let's take a stab at it. And Trey and Greg, you know what we want, but you can certainly pipe in at the end, okay? Go ahead, please, Bob.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve a demolition permit less the 4 windows on the east facing property to demolish an existing 351 square foot cabana and 2 second floor balcony railings.
She already has, so it's fine. Right, that's what.
Is that okay, Trey and Greg?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, Rita, would you do a roll call?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. Bob, would you continue with the balance?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed construction of a 17-foot 6-inch by 40-foot loggia with a circular metal stairway on the rear of the dwelling and 2 second floor balcony railings meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following condition. 1, any minor modifications in the approved landscaping shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to commencement of landscaping.
I think we want to add a second item to that stipulates that the site plan approval excludes the 4 windows again in the center of the back of the building. Should we not have it in this too?
Yes.
We're not approving. Okay. So Bob, would you add a second item on the second motion that stipulates that the site plan approval does not include the approval of the windows in the center core of the east face of the building, something to that effect?
Okay, so look, can you all just make, do I have to repeat the whole motion, or can I just add on that this second motion to approve does not include the 4 windows on the east side of the property?
You can just add that on to your motion, Mr. Doherty.
I thought I just did.
Okay.
Excellent job. Thank you.
All right, now, so do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions? If not, Rita, would you please call for a vote?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. Cynthia, I think what would be important is as soon as you guys come up with some renderings on this, that we don't get them like the night before the next meeting. We may have some feedback. Staff certainly may have the feedback, but we may be able to offer some feedback earlier than the meeting, because the purpose of the meeting would be to approve them, not start arguing about, what you're proposing. May give us a couple of alternatives, one that would, certainly that we need to arch effect over the top of those windows. Even if the windows are square, there still can possibly be a cement feature that makes them look arched or something, but just the squares aren't going to get it. Okay.
Not a problem, and I think I speak for
All right.
Lee,
I
so
think that
works.
concludes that. Cynthia, do you have any other question?
No, I just had the comment that I speak for Lee, that I know that we will
Okay,
definitely.
thank you. Say that again.
It's a pesky delay. I was just saying, I do speak for the homeowner and myself and the contractor, that we will all resolve the window, the look and the aesthetic of it to match the fabric that's there now. And we definitely will come and visit with staff and submit this as soon as possible before the next meeting. Because as you said, yes, we're all in agreement that the next meeting is for the final approval. No problem. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So moving on, are there any items that the staff want to discuss at today's meeting? Items of
No,
any of the board members?
No, Mr. Chairman, staff is good.
Anybody on the board have any comments or questions? The public, there's no other. Oh,
I have the
did
color
someone
for
say
the,
something?
in the previous,
That's the color for the shutter?
yeah, that one.
Okay,
Anyway,
well, look at it.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see it in person at the next meeting, huh? Okay, if not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job.
Thank you.
How do we turn
Good
this
job.
off?